Welcome to the Sales Prospector Show, supported by Lease a Sales Rep and Inc. 5000 Company, helping our clients grow sales by securing guaranteed appointments, qualified leads, and guaranteed contracts for their services and products across the U.S. I'm your host, Gil Pagan. You can also find us at leaseasalesrep.com, and we are on all major social media channels. I'm excited today because I get to interview Mark Hunter. Man, that's a cool name. Mark Hunter, and his business is called thesaleshunter.com. Wonderful branding there. Mark has a sales training firm, does a lot of sales training, does sales coaching, also some sales consulting. I've heard him speak at one of the conferences, and he's a gifted speaker. So I'm looking forward to kind of chat with him a little bit and discuss some stuff about him personally, but also the business that he has and what does he see in the marketplace and what challenges our companies are facing when it comes to sales. So welcome, Mark, to the Sales Prospector Show.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Looking forward to talk all things sales and who knows what else we'll get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. So tell us a little bit about the business and how you started the Sales Hunter and kind of like your trajectory into that, into this business.
Yeah, well, the trajectory is the last name is my real last name. People always ask me, what was your name before you changed it to? No, I owe it to my parents. So anyway, I was in corporate sales jobs for about, 16, 17 years and just got sick of working for somebody else. So 20 years ago, this October, I walked out the door and began really doing a tremendous amount of consulting, which then kind of morphed into training. And now really what I do primarily is just speaking at conferences, speaking to larger groups. But I still do. I still get a kick out of it. I was doing some consulting this morning with some clients, very small clients, and I love doing that. So it's all over the place. But you know what? It's about sales because sales is fun. Sales is really fun.
Well, that's great. So 20 years you've been doing this. So when you left corporate, obviously it's been a long time, and sales then, they used to have yellow pages then, and the books that, they up until recently we were still getting. So
hey, that is a yellow book behind me. So.
Yeah, that's right. And Mark is an author. He also has a book called High Profit Prospecting, which I have right here, so all my followers can see. I've actually read it, and it has some really good stuff, and it's kind of marked up right there as well. So it's a good resource. You did a good job, by the way.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people are reading it. So you went into obviously started your own gig, got tired of I guess working for corporate, and became a sales trainer, consulting, and the like. When you're traveling across the country and you're consulting with clients and doing training and doing your speaking, what are the common things you're seeing right now today in today's sales environment with challenges that customers have? Just kind of, what are you seeing across the board generally?
The biggest challenge that people are wrestling with is how do they engage customers when they don't want to be engaged? I mean, this is the whole thing. They say nobody picks up the phone, nobody responds to email.
Yeah.
So this whole prospecting thing is still the number one issue. It's always been the number one issue.
Right.
But now what people are doing is they're saying, well, how does this social selling work and all that sort of stuff? And I think unfortunately that creates a lot of bad diversions for. Now, there's nothing wrong with social selling, but sometimes what happens is you can get drunk on Kool-Aid. And you got to be careful because it's amazing how well the telephone still works and really the tools that have been around for prospecting for years and years. So really what's changed is we have all these new sets of tools out there. But what we don't really know yet is how to use those tools effectively to create better prospects. And I use that word greater prospects really seriously because there's a funny issue. It's not about getting leads. I mean, marketing departments out there all over the place can get you leads. It's called emails. It's called that sort of stuff. I want really good leads. That's where the challenge is. How do I get that really good lead? Because if I have a good lead, I can close them a lot faster, and I'll close them at full price.
Yeah, I guess the prospecting questions that people tend to have is that, like you just said, people are not responding to voicemails, they're not responding to emails. How do we get them to respond to our voicemails and emails so we can have an initial 15-minute discussion, and then from there progress to the next stage, whether it's a demo, a full-time, another 30-minute meeting or something like that. What have been, I guess, best practices for you, and what you've seen kind of tends to work? I'll tell you what we have seen in some of the challenges, but what has been best practices for you?
Well, I think the number one best practice is you got to read your shampoo bottle. Read your bottle of shampoo. There's a key word on that bottle of shampoo. It says repeat, repeat. we have to be willing to connect and reconnect and reconnect and reconnect, because that prospect that we're trying to reach out to, they really probably don't want to talk to us because they really don't see the value of what we can bring to them. That's why I've got to have the conversation, but I've got to create that value for them in my messaging in order for them to say, I will engage with you. I will have a conversation with you. And again, this is where so many salespeople fall down. Now, this is where social selling does come into play, because there's a phrase I love to use. Trust is the currency of business. Trust is the currency of business. And one of the things that social media allows us to do is it allows us to create trust that precedes us into the conversation. For instance, I have a lead that I materialized just about 2 hours ago. What did I do? Before I called them back, oh, by the way, I didn't email them back. I called them back. But before I called them back, I immediately went out to the internet to see, what does it say about their company? What does it say about them? See, trust, trust is set up by what social media says. So what did that do? In literally 20 seconds, 30 seconds, I was able to figure out more about what they are to make the call. And that's one of the big things that I'm going to call this out right now. So many salespeople say, well, gee, I'm going to follow up with them by way of email. Pick up the phone, call them.
Yeah, and I'm gonna follow that train of thought. That when we're talking about lead quality and qualification of leads, right? So you, in your particular example, you got somebody that was a lead for you. You checked it out, and evidently, this person, company, whatever it is, seemed to be qualified based on your qualification criteria, I'm assuming, and you went ahead and picked up the phone and called them. What about when those leads that come in, let's say, whether it's a web form or something like that, and you look at the business, you look at, you do your social media thing, you do the 30-second, a minute kind of check. You know what? We really don't want to talk to these people because, quite frankly, although maybe they could be a potential customer, but maybe email is the best route. Now, so you're not wasting time on a social kind of call, basically. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that very much real. The vast majority of leads that come in. Now let's start separating what we mean by leads. So many times people think, well, gee, just because they downloaded an ebook or they went out to your website that you think they're a lead. No, they're just somebody who's looking. I don't value those as leads. I mean, I value those as marketing engagement activities. In other words, those are the ones that are going to get, an email or something like that. I know from a sales perspective, and I have to realize this, the most valuable asset I have is my time. So I got to make sure I spend my time on the most valuable prospects, the most valuable leads possible. So you're right. I've got to do a very quick separation. My whole objective is I really want to qualify you fast. Well, I really want to disqualify you fast. Right. So I only spend my time with the best prospects.
I totally agree. And as being transparent as an organization ourselves, we tend to say that we're in the disqualification business.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Yeah.
So we are trying to determine whether we're the right fit for anybody who reaches out to us and disqualify them fast. And it's ironic that sometimes we are so brutal in doing this, in the sense of we respond and say, based on a review, of whatever your website or what your needs are and your industry vertical, size of company, whatever it is, we may not be specific in our response, but we'll do the assessment and say, we're not the right company for you. Some people actually, Mark, will get upset that we disqualified them so quickly, and they kind of take it personal. And now we're in damage control mode because we responded so quickly, because time is extremely valuable to us. We want to be on the phone with the right prospect, not talking a half hour with somebody who can't really afford a service like ours or a service like yours.
Right.
So the challenge is that balance, man. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, just knock it out and ignore it and just move on, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is where I've got to engage you quickly in a conversation. And if you can't share with me some sort of a need, some sort of an outcome that you have early on, I'm going to move you to the back of the pack. And don't say that, well, what's your price? You know what? I'm just really looking for a price. Anybody who calls and asks for that quick price, I'll give them a quick price. Yeah, it's usually less than $1 billion, but sometimes it's more. Because, think about it. The person who's asking you for the quick price, what are they doing? They're looking just to really get a price that they can use for somebody else, use with somebody else, use against you for somebody else. And I just don't want to play in that game, because the customer who buys you on price is going to leave you on price. I'll leave that for Walmart.
Yeah, I agree. Usually what we call their tire kicker.
You got it.
They are just shopping around for the lowest price, or they want to use you as a quote for somebody else to drive them down, that kind of thing. So you could be either a Nordstrom, right, or you could be a Walmart. Okay.
Gee, it sounds like you've read my book. You're right.
Yeah, Poppy. Yeah. So I prefer to be Nordstrom. Some people will prefer to be Walmart, and that's fine.
Yeah. And you know what? Those are both great business models.
Yes, exactly.
You see, this is what you do. You really have to define what your business model is, and then say, those are the prospects I'm gonna be going after. And just because a prospect has a heartbeat doesn't mean they're qualified to buy from me. I mean, I've got a dog who's got a heartbeat. My dog is not buying anything from me.
What are you seeing as far as on the ground feedback from your clients, people you're training, consulting? How many touches is it taking, email, phone call, social, to get the ideal prospect on the phone to have a conversation? Yeah,
what I'm finding is it's becoming more and more segmented by industry.
Okay.
We are long past this whole era of just having kind of this uniform piece. I'm seeing some industries where it's just a couple of calls is all it takes. And yet I'm seeing other industries where it may take, 10, 15 messages, even just to get them to warm up. So again, there's not a universal. And what I'm also finding is that there are some industries much more amenable to the telephone, other industries much more amenable to even text messaging or social media. But where I really get hung up in social media and social selling is people forget the definition of the first word: social. It's not selling, it's social. Please create the relationship first.
I got you. Are you able to elaborate a little bit on, whatever you remember as far as industries that maybe a little bit easier?
Yeah.
Some of the ones that texting may work, and things like that, just to give our listeners a little bit of data.
Yeah, when I'm dealing with more very much tech-oriented, software-oriented industries, texting is really becoming the best means, because it tends to be a millennial person, and text even surpassing anything by way of the internet. There are industrial. I was with an industrial group back here about a week ago. They sell industrial services, industrial supplies, and they're finding it's the telephone. But what they find is it's the telephone geared to very specific segments. In other words, if they're selling a replaceable item, boom, they can normally get through within 2 calls. But conversely, if they're selling something that's more going to be seen as a capital expenditure, then it can go on forever. So it's all over the place. But I think this is what makes sales fun, because once you figure out the secret sauce, and you figure out the secret sauce for each segment that you sell into,
Mhm.
then you really, really increase your success.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And I think that uh, s- some of the people that we talk to as a company, but also just connections in our network, just ask us for our feedback on what they're trying to do. They ask these questions of regarding how many touches and the like. And I think that the tech software space is multiple touches. In the sense of if you're in the middle market or you're in the enterprise level kind of client versus now texting for us. I mean, we don't do texting as an organization. Maybe we should look at it, but we don't do texting because we think that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, we think that that's probably someone, like say a millennial, lower down on the food chain. If you're selling them a product or something for them, okay, but if you're trying to get into a large middle market enterprise level client like you're selling, you're training, coaching, consulting, speaking, you're selling to a different type of person. So your approach would be different, I assume.
And Gil, you said that so spot on, because that's one of the critical things. Again, this industry, but then you got to look at where am I at in the industry,
Mhm.
and in terms of the position. I'll share a technique that I have used for years, and I shared this with the companies. If I'm trying to reach a senior level person,
Mhm.
one of the best ways for me to reach them is with a email sent at 6:15 on a Saturday morning.
Mhm.
Boom. That's radical. That's
Still in the
different.
book.
It's in the book. It's in
Okay,
the book.
I thought. Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
thought I read
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I found is that senior level people don't stop working. They don't stop working on the weekend. But
Mhm.
on the weekend is when they finally have time to maybe dig in and go through some emails that they haven't. Uh,
Gotcha.
there's a certain style of email that you got to write. There's a certain style you got to use, very concise bullet points and so forth. Um,
Mhm.
but I have found, and I've shared this technique. In fact, I'll share a story.
Mhm.
I was working with a company that sells into the healthcare industry, and the salespeople were very, very skeptical. But they deal with hospital administrators, senior administrators of hospital. And I was doing kind of a multi-engagement deal. I was coming in once a month for 3 or 4 months, and I shared it with them on 1 month. And a lot of them were very skeptical. We came back together the following month, and the ones who had tried it said, wow, they were blown away at the level of success they had.
Mm.
That an email that they would send out at 6:15 on a Saturday morning, that healthcare administrator, that hospital administrator would email back, late morning. Now, the whole key thing is you don't sit there and wait till Monday to engage with them, because then if you wait till Monday, you're going to be seen as a slimy salesperson. But if you turn around and respond back to their email at 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon, they go, wow, she's working. She's working. I like that style. He's working. I like that style.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. When it comes to the actual data sets that people use to prospect, right? You got certain industries that have certain data sets, right? For particular industry verticals. Or you just have, data that you just buy from, list services, right? And there's two schools of thought here. One is take the list. They're gonna give you a name on that list and the phone number and a company name, industry vertical, let's say tech software, let's say $15 million or more. Just to give you an example, you don't have the name of the decision maker, but you call into that company and try to work around to try to find who that person is. Or do you take that information, if you don't have the actual person you're trying to reach, let's say purchasing manager, go onto LinkedIn, try to get a purchasing manager's name, and then call into that organization with that purchasing manager's name, which again, one slows you down and you can almost get somewhat of the same result, depends.
Right.
Or do you slow down and take that and get that name? What is your
Yeah. I'll always go for the latter, with the exception of I can't stand purchasing.
right,
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
right.
I'll try to go to the user, the true decision maker, et cetera. But I prefer the latter, and here's the reason. Now, there are some people who very much say, just give me the list and I'm going to make 100 calls. I'm going to make 500 calls. I'm going to use some sort of automated system. I'm just not a big fan of those. Now you can develop great results. No arguments about that. I prefer to say, let me do a little bit of research, try to zero in, and let me try to make 10 or 15 calls and focus my effort there. And I'm going to repeat, I'm going to use that word on the back, on bottom of every shampoo bottle, repeat.
Right, rinse, repeat.
10, 15, time and time again.
Gotcha. Okay, so that, be more focused with your energy and your calling versus, I got you.
Yeah, because here's the whole thing. If you have like, gee, I've got you 1,000 leads. Well, the problem is making 1,000 phone calls. You may get some business, but even a blind squirrel will find an occasional acorn.
Right.
The challenge is to be able to repeat. And if I have 1,000 people I'm trying to call, I'm not going to be able to come back around and repeat those phone calls for probably a couple months. Well, then it's just a waste of time. Total waste.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's so the more focused you are, the better. It's what it sounds like to me. If you can just slow down a bit, spend whatever the time it is, a half hour, an hour, just getting some real names of people in those companies and then bang them out.
And it really doesn't take long. I mean, there's some great tools out there, whether it be a Zoom info, which is great, Discover.org, another great tool, or just simply really learn how to use Google. I mean, Google you can do some deep dives and uncover some unbelievable information if you just kind of understand how to put quotes, how to exclude words, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, do those certain searches. When we were in college, I don't know if they still use this term, Boolean searches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean that's really the language, so to speak, that they use. And there's a gentleman I talk about in the book. In fact, I partner with him on a lot of things. Sam Richter.
Okay.
He is the guru when it comes to understanding how to use that from a sales perspective.
Really? So leave a voicemail or don't leave a voicemail?
I prefer to leave a voicemail. Now, I'm not expecting you to return the call. I know, I get that. But what I do want to do is I'm going to use it as a marketing message. And I'm going to leave a very tight 11 to 14 second voicemail. I'm really kind of viewing it almost as a billboard along the side of the highway. I mean, that's really what I'm kind of viewing it as. But it's going to just boom, boom, boom. It's tight, short message. And the reason I like 11, 14, 16 seconds, somewhere in there, is because I want to demonstrate to you that I'm going to respect your time. This person I just reached out to, this lead, I called the person. She was not there. I left her a very tight voicemail. Hopefully she'll call back. If she doesn't, it's okay. I'm going to try to reach back out to her again tomorrow.
Right. Name and phone number on the front, name and phone number on the back.
Yep. I always make sure, and I don't even really put my phone number right up front. I'll just say my name. I'll say what my call to action is, and then I'll say, I'm Mark Hunter. Here's my phone number, and I'll repeat it a second time.
Yeah, we do the phone number on the front. Our name on the front, and then we close it on the back because people sometimes write the message, and they delete.
You certainly want. I mean, this is the whole thing. You got to make sure that you leave that phone number twice. That's so important.
Right, just because people are just distracted and they may not get it the first time and say it slow and clear and the like. I get your thought on and your approach to closing sales with a interested prospect, and I can give you our process relatively in 3 or 4 steps, 5 steps. But somebody is your prospect, they've already expressed interest, you're taking them through your sales process for you to close them for your business, make this real personal, right? Take us through what that process looks like.
Yeah, well, first of all, speed sells, all others lose. And I didn't subscribe to that 5 years ago. I did not subscribe to that. Here's what I want to do. Early on, as fast in the prospecting phase, I want to be able to qualify you, but find out what that outcome is. Find out the outcome. What's that benefit? What's that need that you're looking for? As soon as I know that, and I have a sense for how you make a decision, I'm going to try to close you. In other words, there's no sense in lengthening a process just for the sake of lengthening it. I mean, I see sales. I was with a company. I was asked to come in and help a company figure out their sales process. Well, it became pretty obvious when they showed me their sales, and they had 32 steps. 32 steps in their sales process.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, that's good because our process is very similar. Just qualify you right now. You're qualified. Find out what your need is. Determine if you're the decision maker, who else is involved in the decision making process.
Right.
What is your timeline?
Those are see. That's when you have that critical information.
Yeah.
Then don't sit there and draw this out into some lengthy thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we're similar in nature in the sense of the way we see a sales process going. What's interesting about LinkedIn, I was talking to one of my managers the other day, and I'm just being transparent here with you. Some people are going to hear this on the podcast. The next thing I say was, Gil, sometimes you may not be the best person to talk to a prospect because when they get to you, sometimes you're going to be like, to the point, identify the need, get them into a timeline, get them to the next decision-making process, and kind of move to close. And sometimes we need to kind of, lack of a better word, I gotta baby them a little bit. We gotta take them a little bit through the process, still close them, but move them a little bit slower down the food line. So I'm like, okay, I have gotten people in a very short timeline, but sometimes, Mark, they may get a little bit uncomfortable because they know they're being sold. I mean, that's yeah.
Huge.
So go ahead.
Yeah, huge on that. And you have to understand that the sales process is value creation.
Mm-hmm.
And customers want value creation in different manners. Mm. There are some people who want to have that massage, want to be, have this. And that's what we have to be able to understand as a salesperson, and then be able to pick up or slow down. But here's the whole thing.
I don't want to talk to those people.
Yeah, well, I hear you, because we this is what drives me nuts with so many salespeople. They'll have this great call, and then they'll sit there and say, "Yeah, well, let me put a proposal together, and I'll send it to you in a couple of days." And then they just email them the proposal. Oh, stupid! You never do that. I don't want you to ever get a proposal from me that I am not talking to you either in person, by way of video, or minimally on the phone. Mm-hmm. I'll give you this is a B2C example. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to replace my driveway, and I had a contractor come over, and he talks to me, and he gives me his bid. It's in this folder. Didn't even tell me to open it up and look at it.
Wow.
Then he left.
No sales process.
No sales process. But you know what? And I'm kind of laughing at, wow, this guy's lousy. But you know what? It's what a lot of professional salespeople do too.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of hit the nail on the head. I guess the question, the managers are telling me that, Gil, you may not want to speak to certain people. And so I need to identify those people who want to be more massaged a little bit and talk to in a different kind of way, versus the ones who are kind of like hard hitting, just give me the facts, and we'll go forward from there. So I need to kind of figure that out. So you know what? You don't want to speak to Gil. Maybe when they get to me and say, you don't really want to speak to me. You want to speak to Jeff. It's kicked somewhere else to one of my people, because I can't, it's just my psychology is just get them into the process. And when I'm on LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn. It's a good segue into this question for you. I'm seeing a lot of stuff about making the prospect provide value to the prospect. Clearly, can you help them be empathetic? That you're taking care of their needs and wants, and making sure you're the right fit. It's kind of like this warm and fuzzy kind of babying kind of approach. And if you are really one of those people that really care, I'm just saying this in general, that really care about helping the customer, then that's going to come from a genuine place. But at the end of the day, if you're not, and then you're feigning that in order to close a sale, even though both sales reps want to close a sale. So I'm like, I see this stuff, and I don't go out there and say what I really want to say. But I'm like, we're in a sales game here. Okay, we need to close deals, get people into a timeline, disqualify them out, and close them. So I'm like, I'm seeing a lot of this warm and fuzzy stuff, man. And I'm like, where did the real sales process, hardcore closer? Let's get this thing signed here. If not, 6 months, you ready? No problem. Listen, I appreciate the conversation. I'll reach out to you in 6 months. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this warm and fuzzy thing that at least I'm seeing? I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, the warm and fuzzy drives me nuts. Now, there's two things that are happening. Sometimes the warm and fuzzy is just throwing stuff out there on the internet again to create that trust. But here's what I want to do. We don't do our customers a service if we draw this thing out, and we don't do it a service to them if we try to say, let me take your order right now. There is that element of trust that has to be created. And let's break down what trust really is. Trust is really having this level of confidence, and confidence goes both ways. The customer's got to feel confident with me, and I've got to feel confident with them. Mm-hmm. Only when we have that level of confidence and trust does truth have a chance to come out. Mm-hmm. And see, this is what happens sometimes when salespeople try to close too quickly. There's no confidence, right? So there's no truth, or it gets long drawn out that we just totally lose sight of what's going on. Yeah, and truth doesn't come out. The real truth doesn't come out. So there is now. You're kind of saying, Mark, you're kind of waffling back and forth. No, I'm not, because what I'm saying is that sales is a people business. It's a people business. Mm-hmm. I was having a fascinating discussion the other day with a gentleman regarding AI. Will artificial intelligence replace salespeople? And no, it won't. It won't. Mm-hmm. As long as we create the value of the human interaction. But see, if all we're doing is asking robotic questions, if all we're doing is going through a robotic process, then we will be replaced.
Right, I got you. Yeah, and there is value for the salesperson. I agree. I think AI is very good for screening. I think initially, like certain questions, 5 questions. Again, depending on what you're selling, service, product, B2B, B2C, it's probably good. But then at some point, they got to get to a live body to have a conversation. So I think there is some value there if you have a lot of volume, I think. But yeah, I agree. It's not gonna replace the salesperson. You're always gonna need somebody. I mean, sure, there may be less salespeople in theory, but I think there's always gonna be a place for a highly qualified, value-based person who knows how to close a sale, particularly a high-end sale. Yeah. In my opinion, so I think that's definitely be something that's going to be needed no matter what. Just salespeople. I think that. We were looking at one of the questions I had threw out to you was higher ed and sales education, and I've called quite a number of schools over the couple of years, and I've even gone to some. I looked at some of the stuff that they're showing or not showing, not teaching. Some of the curriculums that they have in the higher ed for sales is like it is old books. That, I mean, it is amazing that they don't even have a sales and marketing course on how to identify a prospect, generate a lead, qualify, close them. Nothing like that. Do you see the same thing that I'm seeing in your part of the country and wherever you travel?
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that question up because I was just on the campus yesterday of University of Texas at Dallas. And they have one of the fastest up and coming sales focused programs.
Really?
And really is just absolutely amazing. And let me give you a very quick example. Sure. In this particular class, they have 2 sessions of this class. They've only had 2 classes. And yet yesterday I was a judge in what they call their speed sell. And they had 2 minutes with which to get my attention and get an appointment set up for a follow-up conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And no textbook teaches that. So, I mean, there are some schools out there that have moved themselves forward. What was very interesting was at this particular speed sell competition, there were 17 judges. I was the keynote speaker for kind of a one-day event they were having. But the other 16 judges were all sales companies from the Dallas area. Guess what? Recruiting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so there are some schools out there that get it, that have made the transition. But you are right. There's a lot of that because it's some tenured professor who teaches this one session, one semester every other year. And gee, I've had this textbook for 10 years. It worked good 10 years ago. What's changed? Let's keep using it. Yeah, that's leaving a bad taste. But there are some schools out there that have jumped the shark. And
How would you go about finding in a consolidated, concise, in a way of looking at, okay, across the country? I didn't even know University of Texas, Dallas had a program. You mentioned it.
yeah.
So how would you go about even finding the schools that had that?
Well, that in itself is a real challenge. What is kind of interesting is the hotbed for sales schools happens to be in Texas, and I'm not a Texan. I'm not a Texan.
Interesting.
The longest running and probably the most recognized school is actually at Baylor, followed by the University of Houston. Those two schools do very good from a sales standpoint. So, gee, I'm doing shout outs at Northern Illinois University. Dr. Peterson there has created a really good program. But University of Texas, Dallas has come out of nowhere in the last 5 or 6 years. But you're right. I mean, here's something that I find very interesting. Go back 10 years ago, and you could not, maybe 15 years ago, you could not find a school that would recognize sales as a profession.
Right.
No. It's marketing. It's marketing. Now we're finally getting to the point where people are realizing sales is something valuable.
Yeah, it's no, that's good. I didn't know about these 3 schools in general. And and again, the only place that people can get real up-to-date sales training, consulting, is usually through firms like yours. That is more, outside of the academic realm, right? It's more of like you're investing in yourself, or the company's paying for you because you're an employee. It's continuing education kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think the private market, i.e. the market I'm in, so forth, will always have the upper hand because we can tailor, we can move so much faster. Academia is always going to be bound by just the, I don't want to say the ritual, but the constraints of accredited universities. Nothing wrong with that. Nope, no fault in that at all. It's just that's their process, that's their model.
Absolutely. So as we kind of wrap up here, what excites you about your business in particular, but what do you see in the marketplace, in just in general and it could be anything, doesn't matter, tech, software, whatever. What do you see in the marketplace? What excites you from a new business development, new company starting, opportunity? I can share with you what I see, and I'll do that. But what do you see? What excites you?
Yeah, tremendous number of new tools coming into the marketplace. I mean, and one of the problems is there is so much venture capital willing to fund programs, willing to fund companies. And I hate to say this, I'm gonna throw some people under the bus here. But there's a lot of startups in the sales space, in the sales tech space, sales enablement space, that are really solutions looking for a problem. The problem doesn't even exist, and yet they've come up with the solution. They're crap. They're garbage. Okay, throw them out.
Right. I agree.
And they just become shiny objects that wind up distracting people. But what I do find is that there are, you got to find the tools that work for you. We recently just switched CRM systems. And I'm using Nimble. I've become a huge fan of Nimble. It's a great CRM system. Wonderful CRM system. I use OneMob as a video tool.
Right.
Very, very, but very niched for me. This is one of the challenges. I think this is the big thing that I think sales Sales has to control their future. Do not let the CEO go to some conference and hear somebody or see something and come back and boom, this is what we're going to do. Because the CEO doesn't know what sales is all about. You know what sales is all about.
Sure.
Drive your future.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm glad you had some of the tools that are out there, Nimble and One Mob, for your videos. If you find Mark on LinkedIn, you'll see that he has a lot of videos. And One Mob, he's always doing a 10-second, 15-second video wherever he's traveling through. He stops in the middle of the airport and does something, and puts it up, and and there it is. So it's out there for you to listen to. Lightning round of questions, but I'm going to give you an opportunity that I see in the marketplace. And since we get a lot of feeds and data because of what we do here, we're in different verticals, so we see stuff. A lot of opportunity in the transportation space. The last mile, particularly with the Amazon effect. There's huge opportunities in the last mile delivery services. There's not enough truck drivers. There's that whole Uber kind of model, part-time driver, all that kind of stuff. Huge opportunities there. People can figure out a way to get the trucks, get the bodies. They can have a nice business, and that's just one idea of like maybe 20 that we see things going on in the marketplace that are disruptive in nature. And there's a lot of disruption happening in the marketplace in different industry verticals that we see. And since we operate in a couple of different verticals, and we have a couple of different businesses other than Lisa Sales Rep, so it's things that we see because we eat a lot of data here.
Well, hey, let me jump on that. This
Sure.
is this whole supply chain management, and one of the things I think salespeople really would do themselves a good service in, and that is really understand what does your supply chain look like all the way through in whatever industry you work in. And like you talk about that whole last mile, it is amazing how the transportation industry is going through a revolution right now. Why? Because various elements of the supply chain are being disrupted. And as salespeople, we owe it to our customers to help them work their way through those challenges.
Absolutely. So I definitely, there's a lot of opportunity, and we have to stay focused as an entrepreneurial organization. That we can't take advantage of every single thing. It's just that we have to see opportunity and move on those that we can execute on. So we're extremely focused here, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Lightning round questions for you. And it's just basically one answer, one response type of question. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, black, a lot.
Hot or cold coffee?
Hot, hotter the better. And I don't care how hot it is outside. I'm drinking hot coffee.
I'm the same way. It's interesting. Must be a sales thing. Beach or mountains?
Oh, mountains for sure. I could care less about the beach.
Okay. Okay. Hot or cold weather?
Oh, hot weather. I love running in hot weather.
Okay. Oh, great. Your favorite food?
Whatever's in front of me. I am not a foodie.
Oh.
And the only two rules I have: it can't be looking at me, can't be looking back at me, and it cannot be moving. Other than that, I'll eat it.
Right. The one in the eyes or head looking at you, and it has to be cooked.
Just not crazy about that.
All right. The preferred sport?
Oh, preferred sport, football.
All right. You're a football fan. All right. Team?
You know what? I really don't have okay, University of Nebraska Cornhuskers, since I do live in Nebraska.
That's a college team.
They won't kick me out of the state now. Okay, boom. Okay, I'm safe.
Android or Apple?
Apple. I'm an Apple man all the way through.
Okay. Laptop or desktop?
Laptop.
Okay. Watch or no watch?
No watch.
Okay.
Here's my watch. Here's my watch. It's called an iPhone.
I got you. And that's interesting. A lot of people have it. That's what they use to watch. Loafers or shoes with laces?
Shoes with laces.
That says a lot about somebody. You know that?
Really?
Yeah. Hard workers, they say. Gumshoe, kind of, let's make it happen kind of thing, you know? Back in the day before they had loafers. I do both, by the way. And favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay. So you're Dr. P, huh?
I love Dr. Pepper.
My oldest son is Dr. Pepper, not Diet.
Well, when he gets older, he'll turn into Diet Dr. Pepper. Just saying. Just saying. There's a threshold. There's a threshold in life that you cross over.
Yeah, it's over 50.
It hit me a lot younger than 50, trust me.
I gotcha. Well, thank you for listening to the Sales Prospector Show and the interview with Mark Hunter from the Sales Hunter. He's the owner of the Sales Hunter, a consulting, sales training, coaching firm. He's also a gifted speaker and the author of High Profit Prospecting that Lisa Sales Rep has, and we've given it to some of our sales reps as well. So we'd recommend you get this book for your collection. Mark, thank you so much. I love chatting with you and enjoyed the sales conversation.
Thank you, and great selling.
You too, buddy. All the best.
Thank you.